The cobalt moon of Nadier, 6 never sleeps. Dust walks the air like a living thing. Sirens complain in the far distance, then fade. At Gulliver Station, floodlights paint long knives across steel. Grit rattles on the railings. The whole place feels tense, as if the metal itself is holding its breath. Jax Moreno waits at the landing rail. He checks the chrono again. He tells himself to relax. He does not relax. Freight runners are late all the time. Passenger shuttles, less so. This one is very late. A red spark appears in the clouds. It grows. It tumbles. The shuttle punches through haze on one coughing engine. Panels glow dull orange. Stabilizers scream. It slams onto the pad and slides a meter before the clamps bite. Steam pours from the vents. The ground shakes once and then goes still. The hatch shudders. Opens. A small figure stands inside the bright doorway. She hesitates, as if the light is a wall. She steps out. She stumbles. Jax moves without thinking. He catches her by the shoulders. Cool skin. Trembling muscle. She smells like rain on metal. Blue silver. That is her skin. Not paint. Not cloth. Real. Her eyes are pale and clear, the color of cold morning sky. White hair hangs in a torn braid. A thin collar band glows near her throat. Purple bruises stain one arm. A cut on her lip has dried into a dark line. The shuttle master appears behind her. He is bored. He tosses a data chit. Delivery complete, he says. He turns away. Jax calls after him. The man lifts one hand, does not look back, and seals the hatch. Engines spool. The shuttle lifts and vanishes into the dirty clouds like a bad idea. The girl flinches at the sound. Jax keeps his voice low. Can you stand? She nods. Her knees say otherwise. He eases her weight against him. He leads her under the rail canopy, out of the spray and steam. Vreek arrives at a scuttle. Vreek is the rig chief. 6 limbs. Chitin like burnished stone. His crest clicks when he is worried. It is clicking now. Your contract package arrived, he says. He sees the bruises. The clicking stops. His antennae angle down. Who did this? She looks from Jax to Vreek and back again. She opens her mouth, closes it. Her hand rises toward the collar and then stops in midair, as if touching it might hurt. Jax sees thin numbers pulsing around the band. Some kind of harmonic device. Not civilian make. Name? Jax asks. Her voice is thin but steady. Leary, she says. Of the Cellari. Leary. Jax repeats, slow and careful. I'm Jax. This is Vreek. You're safe. She studies him like a test she must pass. She says nothing, but her shoulders lower a fraction. That is something. Beyond the pad, a gunship shape drifts inside the storm. Not close. Not far. Watching. Jax feels the stare of it, even through dust. He pretends he does not. He guides Leary toward the lift. Gulliver's corridors hum and sweat. Pipes throb. Vents cough grit. Workers step aside and stare. Human. Cellari. Sword. Vespian. Many kinds here. Most minds are simple tonight. And shift, eat, sleep. But news runs faster than boots. Faces turn. Voices murmur. Mail order, someone says. Looks bad, says someone else. Jax keeps his eyes forward. His module is small. 1 bed. 2 chairs. A window that shows nothing but fog and the threat of sky. Vreek pulls a med case from the wall and cracks it open. He sprays sealant on the lip cut. He paints cool gel over the worst bruises. Leary flinches at the touch, but she does not pull away. Jax kneels, so his eyes are level with hers. Leary, tell me what you need. She swallows. Her gaze finds the floor. Quiet, she says. A door that locks. You'll have both. He palms the latch and sets the privacy seals. He brings water. She sips. Color returns to her mouth. The collar hums, almost too high to hear. Vreek's crest lifts. Military mark, he says. Dominion fabrication. I do not like it. Leary's eyes flick to the window. To the fog. To the place where a gunship might be. She draws her hands into her sleeves like a child in winter. He will come, she whispers. Who? Her lips form the name like it cuts. Prefect Ral Keth. Vreek's antennae fold flat. Jax feels a cold line trace his spine. Everyone in this sector knows the title. Dominion Prefect. Law with a sword. Deals with a boot. The kind who smiles while the station signs away its spine. Jax breathes once. In. Out. Why would a prefect chase a bride? Leary lifts her hand. The collar glows against her skin. Because I'm not just a bride. Silence. The hum of pipes. The slow heartbeat of the station. What are you? Jax asks, soft and even. Her eyes find his. There is fear there, but also steel. A witness, she says. And a thief. Jax does not move. Vreek does not click. Outside, the storm pushes its face against the glass and whispers. Leary takes another sip of water. Her hands shake less. If I speak, she says, you will not be safe. Jax nods once. Too late, he says. He crosses to the window and pulls the shade. He checks the door seals again. He powers down the lights until the room holds only a warm, low glow. Rest, he says. We plan when you can stand. Leary watches him for a long breath. At last she lies back on the bed. The collar's light dims. Her eyes close. Sleep drags her under. Vreek leans close to Jax. His voice is a whisper of stone. You could return her, he says. No one would blame you. Jax looks at the door. At the bed. At the storm. Someone bruised her, he says. Someone thinks that is how the story ends. Vreek's crest rises. And you. Jax tightens the straps on his tool belt. He checks the charge in his cutter. He listens to the storm until it sounds like war drums. I think, he says, the story just began. The next morning, Nadier, 6 woke in shades of orange haze and grinding metal. The storm outside had calmed, but the tension in the air felt heavier than ever. Gulliver Station hummed with the slow rhythm of labor. Drills echoing, conveyors rattling, miners cursing over calms. To most, it was just another day of surviving on the edge of nowhere. To Jax Moreno, it was the beginning of something he couldn't yet name. He stood by the viewport, watching streaks of dust crawl across the horizon. His reflection stared back. Tired eyes, oil-stained shirt, a man who'd come here to disappear. But last night had changed that. The girl, Leary, was still asleep on his bunk. She looked fragile, wrapped in one of his shirts, pale light brushing her silver hair. The faint hum of her collar filled the room, a reminder that whatever she had escaped from, it wasn't over. When she stirred, Jax turned. Her eyes opened slowly, focused on him, alert but unsure. You stayed, she said quietly, as if testing the words. Yeah, Jax replied. You were out cold. Didn't want you waking up alone. She sat up, wincing. Most would have handed me back by now. I'm not most, he said, checking the power cell in his sidearm. And whoever put those bruises on you, they'll regret it. For a long time, Leary said nothing. Her gaze lingered on the tool rack, the stripped-down engine parts, the few signs of a man who'd made a home out of exile. Then, almost in a whisper, you shouldn't help me. It'll kill you. Jax snorted. Everything out here kills you eventually. Might as well choose the reason. The comm unit on the wall buzzed. Vreek's gravel-like voice filled the small room. Jax, you awake? You'd better be. Dominion Patrol landed in the south quadrant. They're asking questions about a lost cargo passenger. Jax and Leary exchanged a look. How much time? Jax asked. Not long, Vreek said. They've got scanners sweeping. You need to stay off the grid. Jax muted the channel and turned back to Leary. You said last night, you're a thief. What did you steal? Her breath caught, eyes flickering to the window where dust clouds rolled like waves. Data. Evidence of what the Dominion is planning. What kind of evidence? She hesitated, then met his eyes. A weapon. Not a normal one. It kills only humans. The room seemed to shrink. Jax blinked once, twice, as if the words were wrong and needed fixing. Say that again. She did. Slowly. Painfully. A pathogen. Engineered to recognize human DNA. The Dominion calls it Project Ether Spore. Jax leaned forward, his pulse loud in his ears. Why would they? Because they fear you, she interrupted. Because humans adapt too fast, survive too easily, and refuse to obey. For a few seconds, there was only silence. The hum of the collar, the storm, the beating of Jax's heart. Then a sudden beep from the console. Security alert. Dominion Patrol entering the main concourse. They were scanning housing modules. One by one, Jax grabbed a duffel and started throwing in essentials, rations, ammo clips, a small power core. We can't stay. Where will we go? Leary asked, voice trembling. To the lower levels, he said. Vreek knows the tunnels better than anyone. We'll find a way off station. Leary rose from the bunk, pulling her hood tight to hide the glow of her collar. Her movements were careful, graceful, even through pain. She paused at the door. Jax, if they find me, don't fight. You'll die. He looked at her, and something burned behind his gray eyes. If they find you, he said, they'll have to go through me. They slipped into the corridor. The lights flickered low. The hum of machinery drowned out the sound of their steps. Gulliver Station wasn't built for beauty. It was built for survival. A twisting maze of bulkheads, wires, and forgotten promises. Each turn smelled of oil, sweat, and secrets. Vreek met them near the cargo trams, his scaled hands covered in grease. You picked a bad day to make friends, he muttered. They've locked the docks. No ships leave without Dominion clearance. Then we go underground, Jax said. Not smart, Vreek replied. That's where the abandoned tunnels are. Old mining shafts. Half of them collapsed, the rest haunted by gas leaks and bad luck. Better than waiting for them to knock, Jax said. You in? Vreek stared at him for a moment, then sighed, a deep, vibrating sound. Humans, he said, always choosing the hard path. He motioned them forward. This way. They moved fast, down a maintenance ladder and through a tunnel where the air tasted of rust. The metal walls trembled with the sound of distant engines. Leary's steps were soft but uncertain. Her hand brushed the collar. It's signaling, she whispered. They'll trace me. Jack stopped. He drew his cutter, flicked it on. The blue flame hissed to life. Then we shut it up. No. Leary grabbed his wrist. Her eyes were wide, terrified. You don't understand. If you cut it wrong, it burns my nerves. It's tied to my heart rate. It'll kill me. Jax froze. He looked at her, really looked. The fear, the strength underneath it, the quiet defiance. Then we'll find someone who can remove it, he said. But not today. Today we stay alive. Above them, the muffled thump of heavy boots echoed. Dominion soldiers, close now. Vreek pushed open a hatch. Through here, they slipped inside a maintenance shaft. Darkness swallowed them, broken only by the faint glow of Leary's collar. Jax whispered, You said you stole a weapon's data. Do you still have it? Leary nodded. Encoded in my implant. The column monitors it. If I die, the file erases itself. Then we keep you alive, Jax said. Simple plan. She gave a weak smile. For a human, you make survival sound easy. Only because I've had practice, he replied. Somewhere far above, the station's alarm changed pitch from warning to lockdown. The Dominion had found something. Maybe the empty room. Maybe the open hatch. But Jax didn't look back. He crawled deeper into the dark, the echo of boots fading behind them. And for the first time since he came to Nadier 6, he felt more alive than afraid. The colony was closing in, the storm outside roaring louder. In the shadows of the forgotten tunnels, a spark began, the first flicker of defiance that would soon set the galaxy on fire. The lower tunnels of Gulliver Station were older than any map. The walls sweated rust, and the air smelled of old metal and regret. Dim red lights blinked like the heartbeat of a dying beast. Jax led the way, flashlight beam cutting through the haze. Leary followed close behind, one hand resting on the tunnel wall to steady herself, the other pressed against the collar that still pulsed faintly around her neck. Behind them, Vreek sealed the hatch with his welding torch. Sparks danced, then vanished into darkness. That will buy us time, the insectoid muttered. Not much, but time enough to think, if humans even do that before acting. Jax ignored the jab. He was thinking too much. About the Dominion patrols above. About the bruises on Leary's skin. About her words, a weapon that kills only humans. That thought stuck like a thorn in his chest. They reached a junction. Pipes hummed around them. Somewhere in the dark, water dripped like a clock ticking down. Jax knelt beside a cracked console and brushed off layers of dust. This connects to the old comm grid, he said. If we can power it up, Maybe we can contact someone outside the station. Leary crouched beside him. You mean the Human Alliance? Who else? She hesitated. If they intercept the signal, the Dominion will trace it in seconds. They'll know where we are. Jax gave her a crooked smile. Then we better make those seconds count. He pried open a panel, sparks biting at his fingers. The system was dead, or pretending to be. He rewired the main relay, his hands moving fast, precise. The faint hum of power began to rise. Leary's eyes widened. You're an engineer. Used to be, Jax said. Before the war, took that title away. Which war? The kind humans never stop having. Leary looked at him with something like pity, but not weakness, understanding. On my world, she said quietly, war is a sport for the powerful. You fight for survival. We fight for entertainment. Jack stopped working. Is that why they made you property? Her silence answered for her. Vreek's comm unit flickered with static. He slapped it. You've got movement up above, he warned. Multiple heat signatures. Dominion troops sweeping in a spiral pattern. They'll reach the lower sectors within the hour. Leary's voice was calm. Then we have less than that to get the truth out. She touched the console's main interface, her slender fingers gliding over alien script. The screen brightened. Lines of data cascaded across it, symbols from both Dominion and Cellari code. She worked quickly, almost too quickly. Jax frowned. You've done this before. Her lips curved slightly. I used to serve as a communications archivist for Prefect Ral Keth, until I saw what he was hiding. And you stole it, Jax said. I copied it, she corrected, and ran before he could erase me like the others. The data appeared on the screen, words and images flashing like ghosts. Subject 31. Human. Mortality rate 100%. Jax's throat tightened. They tested it. Leary nodded grimly. Entire colonies forgotten once. They wanted to see how long the virus could survive in atmosphere. They called it purity research. Vreek's mandibles clicked in disgust. Even the Dominion has laws. This is slaughter. Leary's eyes glowed faintly in the red light. That's why Keth wants me dead. I hold the last copy of the counter sequence. It's inside me, in my implant. But if the collar detects me trying to extract it, it will self-destruct. Jax leaned back, staring at her. So you can stop the weapon, but you can't use what's in your own head. Not yet, she said. The key is encrypted. I need access to a Dominion core to unlock it. One exists here, in the upper control tower. Of course it does, Vreek groaned. That's exactly where the soldiers are. Jax stood, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. Then that's where we go. Leary's hand shot out, catching his arm. You'd risk your life for something that's not even your war. Jax met her gaze, steady and unflinching. You said this weapon kills only humans. That makes it my war, and every other humans who doesn't know they're already a target. For the first time, Leary smiled, small but real. You're strange, Jax Moreno. Humans usually are. The tunnel suddenly shook. A low rumble rolled through the ground, followed by a blast of air that carried dust and heat. Vreek pressed one claw to the wall. They've started using pulse scanners. They know someone's down here. Then we move now, Jax said. Which way to the control tower? Vreek pointed down a side shaft. That path will take us to the elevator shafts near the refinery. But you'll pass the east checkpoint. If the Dominion's set up there, you're walking straight into fire. Jax checked his weapon. Then we walk fast. They started moving again, through corridors lined with corroded metal and old machinery, past storage bays that hadn't been opened in years. Every echo made Leary flinch. Every gust of air carried whispers from pipes that once hummed with life. As they neared the refinery shaft, they saw movement ahead, 2 Dominion soldiers scanning crates. Jax raised a hand. Leary froze. Vreek pressed himself against the wall, barely breathing. Jax pointed to a vent above them. Up there, he mouthed. He climbed first, metal groaning under his weight, then reached down to help Leary up. Her hand slipped in his for just a second, soft, trembling. Then she pulled herself through. The soldiers below kept talking in low, metallic voices. Jax caught fragments. Runaway, Cellari asset. Prefect wants her alive. Human interference will be punished. He waited until the voices faded down the hall. Then he whispered, "They're hunting you." Leary's eyes met his in the dim glow. "No," she said quietly. "They're hunting us now." They crawled through the vent for what felt like hours, until they reached a narrow viewing slit. Beyond it, the refinery stretched like a cathedral of smoke and fire. Huge furnaces burning beneath suspended walkways, Dominion banners hanging from the ceiling. At the far end, a glowing spire pulsed with energy, the control core. Leary's voice trembled. "That's it, the heart of the system. If I can reach it, I can unlock the counter sequence." Jax nodded. "Then we plan our move carefully." Vreek clicked once. Careful and human rarely fit in the same sentence. From somewhere deep in the refinery, the sound of heavy boots echoed, patrols converging. Above them, the sirens began to wail again. Leary whispered, "They know." Jax grinned, a sharp edge in his voice. "Good. Saves us the trouble of sneaking." He checked his weapon, chamber to charge, and glanced back at her. "Stay close, Leary. The hard part starts now." As they dropped from the vent into the fiery shadows below, the storm outside raged harder, lightning flashing through the smoke like war drums in the sky, a promise of the battle yet to come. The refinery was a city of fire and steel. Endless pipes, roaring furnaces, and steam so thick it blurred the edges of sight. Heat shimmered through the metal walkways, carrying the tang of ozone and fuel. The heart of Gulliver Station beat here, loud and angry. Every clang echoed like a drum of war. Jax Moreno crouched behind a stack of canisters, the orange glow of the furnace painting his face in sharp shadows. Leary knelt beside him, her silver hair tied back under a hood, her alien eyes darting across the maze of machinery. Vreek clung to a support beam above, his insectoid body blending into the metal. "There," Leary whispered, pointing to the far side of the factory floor. A tall glass spire pulsed with blue light, the Dominion control node. The entire system breathed through it. The hum of the machinery, the flicker of lights, the rhythm of the drills, all tied to that single point. "That's the main uplink?" Jax asked, scanning the distance. Leary nodded. "Once I connect to it, I can override the collar's failsafe and unlock the counter sequence. But the Dominion will detect me instantly. Then we make sure they're too busy to care," Jax said, sliding a fresh power cell into his pulse rifle. Vreek hissed from above. "Guards on the eastern platform. 4, maybe 5. Drones circling every 30 seconds. No clean path." Jax smirked. "Clean paths are overrated." He pointed to a maintenance bridge that crossed above a line of smelters. "We move there, stay low, and pray the heat hides us." They began their crawl through the inferno. The air shimmered. The sound of machinery swallowed their steps. Leary's collar pulsed faster, as if it sensed danger. Every time it flashed, Jax's gut tightened. At the bridge's midpoint, Vreek froze. "Stop," Jax did. "What is it?" "Motion sensors," Vreek clicked softly. "New. Dominion tech. They'll see us in seconds." Jax frowned, looking over the railing. Below, molten or churned like a river of light. Sparks flew into the air, tiny suns burning and dying in an instant. His mind raced. "Can you jam it?" Vreek shook his head. "Not without tools I don't have." Jax took a breath, eyes narrowing. "Then we make noise somewhere else." He pointed to a pressure line feeding the furnaces. "If that valve ruptures..." Vreek's crest flared. "You'll blow half the floor." "Exactly," Jax said. "They'll come running to fix it." Before Vreek could argue, Jax slid down a support beam, landing near the valve cluster. He ripped open the pressure panel, twisted 2 wires together, and yanked the safety release. Alarm screamed. Steam burst upward like a dragon's breath. Leary flinched as heat rolled over them. Drones spun in confusion, red lights flashing. Dominion guards shouted orders over the noise, rushing toward the chaos. "Move!" Jax barked. They sprinted along the bridge. Leary leapt onto the next platform, landing hard, rolling to her knees. Vreek followed, his claws scraping the rail. Jax came last, diving across just as a drone spotted the flash of his weapon. Blue plasma tore through the air where he had been a second before. "Go!" Leary shouted. She ran toward the spire, her breath coming fast, the hum of the collar growing louder with every step. The control node towered before her like a pillar of light. Streams of data ran through it, bright and alive. She pressed her palm to its surface. The collar responded instantly, glowing, thrumming, fighting her. She winced, sweat beading on her skin. "It's locked me out," she gasped. "Can you break it?" Jax asked, covering her with his rifle. "I'm trying." Her fingers flew across the console. Alien symbols flashed across her wrist implant. "It's rewriting itself, like it knows I'm here." "Then we keep it busy," Jax muttered. He leaned over the railing and fired at the advancing guards. Plasma bolts crackled through the smoke. One soldier dropped, another ducked behind a pipe. The others returned fire. Vreek leapt from above, landing on one of them like a hammer. His claws tore through armor. "That's two," he hissed. Leary screamed. The collar surged, sending a jolt through her entire body. She fell to her knees. Sparks jumped from her skin. Jax ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. "Leary!" Her eyes snapped open, glowing white. "I'm in," she gasped. "But it's not just a lock. It's a signal. A signal." She nodded weakly. "It's calling for him." Even through the roar of the machines, they heard it, the deep vibration of thrusters cutting through atmosphere. The ceiling trembled. Bolts rained down from above. Jax looked up. "That's not a shuttle," he said. "That's a warship." Vreek's antennae curled. "Dominion gunship Class 3. Prefect's personal transport." Leary's breathing quickened. "Keth, he's here." Jax clenched his jaw. "Then we finish this before he lands." He turned back to the console. "What did you get?" Leary's hand shook as she pulled a small data crystal from her implant port. "Everything. The ether spore formula. The counter sequence. Proof of what he's done." "Good," Jax said, grabbing her hand. "Then we move before we're cooked." Vreek's voice cut through the chaos. "They've sealed the exits. We're trapped between the furnace pits and the patrol line." "Then we make a new exit," Jax growled. He pointed to a freight lift at the far wall. "That goes to the upper docks. Move." As they ran, the floor beneath them shook again. This time, it wasn't machinery. It was the warship touching down on the station. The whole structure groaned. Leary looked back once, her face pale, her collar still pulsing weakly. "He won't stop," she whispered. "Not until I'm ashes." Jax didn't slow. "Then we'll give him a reason to fear what he created." They reached the lift. Jax slammed the control. The doors creaked shut, and the platform began to rise. Through the metal grate, they could see the refinery below, the fires, the bodies, the chaos, shrinking into a swirl of orange and red. The collar on Leary's neck flickered once, then dimmed to silence. For a brief moment, it almost looked like peace. Vreek leaned against the wall, his mandibles clicking softly. "You humans," he said, shaking his head. "You make enemies like you breathe." Jax wiped soot from his face. "That's the thing about breathing," he said. "You only stop when you're dead." The lift rattled to a halt. The doors opened to a corridor lined with Dominion banners. The shadow of Prefect Keth stretched long across the floor, waiting for them. And as the warship engines roared outside, the storm on Nadier 6 turned black, mirroring the battle that was about to begin inside. The upper corridors of Gulliver Station were nothing like the smoky depths below. Here, the walls gleamed with polished alloy and the Dominion's silver insignias. Security drones hummed through the air, scanning every corridor, while soldiers in dark armor moved with disciplined precision. The air smelled of ozone, metal, and control, the Dominion scent. Jax Moreno, Leary, and Vreek emerged from the freight lift into this world of authority and menace. The lift door hissed shut behind them, leaving them exposed in the corridor's sterile light. "Stay close," Jax whispered. His rifle was raised, but every sound echoed too loud. Every breath seemed to carry forever. Leary clutched the data crystal tight in her hand, the small shard that held enough truth to ignite a war. Her collar was silent now, but it felt heavier, as if it knew who was waiting. A voice drifted from the far end of the hall, calm, deep, commanding. "You've run far enough." The shadow moved first, long and sharp, before the man stepped into the light. Prefect Keth. His armor was polished black, traced with crimson veins that pulsed faintly like blood through glass. His eyes, cold and gold, locked on Leary. "Property returned," he said, voice smooth as oil. "How poetic that a human delivers her back." Jack stepped forward, rifle steady. "She's not your property." Keth smiled faintly. "No? She bears Dominion markings, a tracking collar, a genetic seal. Everything about her belongs to us. Even what's inside her." Leary's voice trembled, but she stood tall. "You mean the weapon? The one you built to erase humanity?" Keth tilted his head. "Erase? Such a crude word. Evolve. The galaxy grows crowded, Miss Cellari. Some species thrive too quickly, spread too far. The spore is balance." Jax's jaw tightened. "Balance doesn't look like genocide." "Perspective," Keth said simply. "You see extinction. We see preservation." Vreek shifted behind Jax, claws twitching. "You Dominion types always speak of order," he hissed. "Yet you build chaos." Keth's golden eyes flicked toward the insectoid. "And yet your species still bends knee to ours, doesn't it? Do not test the limits of mercy." The silence between them thickened, a taut, invisible wire ready to snap. Leary broke it. "You'll never get what's in my implant." "Oh, Leary," Keth said softly, stepping closer. "You always underestimate me." He raised his gloved hand, and the collar on her neck pulsed, once, twice, then began to hum again, sharper, higher. Leary gasped, clutching her throat. Sparks flared along the edges of the band. He's reactivating it," she cried. Jax lunged forward. "Shut it down." He fired, but Keth moved faster, impossibly fast. The bolt seared the wall behind him. With a flick of his wrist, he sent a shock wave that hurled Jax into a console, sparks bursting around him. Vreek roared, leaping down from the ceiling. His claws caught Keth's shoulder plates, but the prefect twisted, driving a blade of pure energy through the alien's side. Vreek staggered, but didn't fall. He locked all four limbs around Keth's arm and snarled. "You first." The prefect growled, throwing Vreek against the wall with a brutal crash. Jax rose, blood trickling from his lip. He saw Leary on her knees, the collar's light searing her skin. Without thinking, he ripped the power cell from his rifle, jammed it into the collar's base, and twisted. Electricity screamed through the air. The collar exploded in a shower of sparks. Leary collapsed forward, gasping, free but dazed. Keth turned slowly, his golden eyes now burning. "You shouldn't have done that, human." "Yeah," Jax said, raising the smoking rifle. "I do a lot of things I shouldn't." Before Keth could react, Jax fired again. Not at him, but at the ceiling above. The support beam cracked. A cascade of molten conduit fluid spilled down between them, forming a curtain of fire. He grabbed Leary by the arm. "Move!" They ran. Vreek limped behind them, clutching his wound, but still breathing. The corridor lights flickered as alarms blared. Behind them, Keth's voice carried through the smoke, calm, unbroken. "You can run, but the signal is already sent. Every Dominion ship in orbit knows where you are. You have nowhere left to hide." Jax didn't answer. He kicked open a side door leading to the command atrium, a wide room filled with glowing holoscreens and Dominion insignias. From here, the station's communications network could be reached. Leary stumbled toward the central console. "This is it," she said, breathless. "If I upload the data from here, it'll reach both the Human Alliance and the Dominion Council before he can intercept it." "Do it," Jack said. She placed the data crystal into the console. Streams of alien code poured across the screens, red, blue, then white. Her fingers flew across the keys, unlocking layers of security firewalls faster than any human could. Jack stood guard near the door. Vreek joined him, holding a plasma cutter instead of his rifle. Blood dripped from his side, hissing as it hit the metal floor. "You humans," he rasped, "always in the middle of trouble." Jax gave a grim smile. "That's our natural habitat." A shock trembled through the floor. Outside, engines roared, the Dominion warship shifting position. Red light flooded the room. "Warning! Station in lockdown. Evacuation protocols disabled." Leary shouted. Transmission started, But it's slow. The encryption's massive. How long? Jax asked. 3 minutes, maybe 4. Then we hold, Jax said. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavy, synchronized. Dominion troopers, closing in. Vreek hissed. They brought a full squad. Good, Jax muttered. Saves us from looking for them. He braced his rifle and fired as the first soldiers burst through the doorway. Blue bolts cut the air, slamming into armor. 2 dropped instantly. Vreek charged, roaring, swinging his cutter like a blade. The room became a storm of gunfire and light. Leary kept typing, sweat dripping down her neck. 50%, she called. Make it 100. Jax shouted, ducking behind a console as plasma rounds scorched the wall beside him. A soldier charged him, blade drawn. Jax swung the butt of his rifle into the alien's throat, grabbed his sidearm, and fired point blank. The trooper fell. Vreek's voice roared over the chaos. They're trying to flank us. Then stop them. Easier said than. The alien was cut off by an explosion. The side panel of the room blew inward, throwing both defenders off their feet. Smoke filled the air. Through the haze stepped Keth again, his armor blackened, but his poise unchanged. He raised his weapon. End of the line. Leary looked up from the console, her face pale. 93%, please. Keth's eyes glowed. Goodbye, Leary. A single shot rang out, not from Keth but from Jax. The bolt hit the console beside Leary, exploding in a burst of sparks that severed the data port connection. The lights flickered. The sound of the Dominion network stuttered, and then stabilized. Keth laughed softly. You missed. Jax grinned through blood and smoke. Did I? Behind Keth, one of the Dominion soldiers, the one with the comm relay pack, stumbled. The pack glowed red, overloaded by the ricochet of energy from Jax's shot. It detonated, throwing Keth forward in a blast of light. Leary screamed. The room went white. When the light cleared, Keth was gone, thrown through the shattered viewport into the storm outside. Leary fell to her knees, trembling, staring at the console. The upload bar blinked. Transmission complete. Jax limped to her side. Tell me that means what I think it means. She nodded slowly, tears glinting in her alien eyes. They know. The Human Alliance. The Council. Everyone. The truth is out. Vreek chuckled weakly, slumping against the wall. Then maybe this cursed station will finally see his sunrise. But outside, the storm only grew darker, lightning crawling across the sky like veins of war. Jax looked out at the chaos, ships clashing in the clouds, fire raining from above, and said quietly, No, Vreek. The sunrise comes after the storm. And somewhere far above Nadier, 6, a dozen ships changed course, their beacons flashing the colors of humanity's return. The war had arrived over Nadier 6. Through the shattered viewport, the sky burned, streaks of red and gold slashing through the clouds as Dominion interceptors clashed with human warships breaking orbit. The storm, the smoke, and the gunfire all blurred into one pulsing horizon of chaos. Inside the command atrium, Jax Moreno wiped blood from his brow and checked his weapon's charge. Barely 3 shots left. His armor was scorched, his arm bruised, but his resolve felt harder than steel. The console beside him crackled with dying sparks. The transmission was gone, but the data had made it through. The truth was out. Leary knelt beside a flickering hollow screen, her breathing shallow. The collar was gone, but it had left burns along her neck, reminders of the leash she'd once worn. The faint light of the control panel painted her silver-blue skin in ghostly hues. They'll know now, she whispered. The Council will have seen everything. Jax glanced out the broken glass, watching the black silhouette of the Dominion warships circle above. Yeah, but so will Keth's reinforcements. Vreek sat slumped against a wall, one arm holding the wound in his side. His insectoid shell was cracked, ichor leaking between his claws. Still, his multifaceted eyes glittered with stubborn fire. Humans, you never stop, he rasped. Even bleeding, you keep standing. That's the trick, Jax said, reloading. Bleeding's fine. Falling's optional. A low hum rolled through the floor, deeper, heavier than before. Leary's gaze shot to the ceiling. That's the cruiser charging its main cannon. Vreek's crest flattened. They'll erase the whole station to hide the evidence. Jax slammed a fist against the console. Then we don't give them the chance. He pointed toward the corridor that led deeper into the upper deck. There's a secondary power core under the docking ring. If we overload it, we can take out the Dominion ship before it fires. Vreek's antennae twitched. That explosion will destroy everything within 20 clicks. Jax met his gaze. That includes them. Lyri rose, unsteady but determined. Then we do it together. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now burned with something else. Resolve. The kind only humans usually carried. They moved fast. The station trembled around them, lights flickering as Dominion troops stormed through the halls. Smoke billowed from ceiling vents. Somewhere, a reactor vent screamed open, and the whole structure shuddered. They passed bodies, miners, security officers, soldiers, all fallen in the chaos. The scent of metal and ozone clung to everything. Left here, Jack shouted. They ducked into a maintenance shaft. The passage tilted downward, lit only by the pulse of emergency strobes. Lyri winced, gripping the wall. The core chambers sealed with Dominion codes. Good thing I've got a cheat, Jack said, pulling a small cracked data drive from his belt, something he'd scavenged months ago while repairing a mining relay. Old Dominion bypass key. Never thought I'd actually use it. Vreek chuckled weakly. You humans collect junk, then turn into miracles. They reached the heavy blast door. Jax slammed the drive into the panel. The screen flashed red, then yellow, then finally green. The locks released with a hiss. The chamber beyond glowed like the heart of a sun. Massive plasma coils lined the walls, their light pulsing through translucent tubing. In the center, the reactor core hummed, a towering column of energy suspended in a magnetic field. Vreek, Jack said, divert the auxiliary coolant feeds to overload loop 2. The alien's claws danced across the interface. You're asking this reactor to commit suicide. That's the plan. Lyri approached the control ring, her eyes wide. If we destabilize the core, we'll have 3 minutes before detonation. Then we'd better be off the station by 2:50. Vreek looked up. And how do we leave? The docking ring's locked. Jax's grin was sharp. We steal Keth's ship. Before anyone could reply, the intercom crackled. A voice, broken, metallic, filled the chamber. Clever, human. But you never understood how far the Dominion's reach truly is. Keth. His tone was calm, but underneath it was fury. You think one broadcast will undo centuries of order? You think anyone will believe a runaway and a miner? Lyri stared at the ceiling speaker. They already believe, she said softly. You built your empire on silence. We gave a voice. The voice on the speaker chuckled, cold, humorless. Then die with your noise. The walls exploded inward. Dominion troopers poured into the chamber, firing immediately. Energy bolts sliced through the smoke. Jax rolled behind a console, returning fire. Vreek roared, hurling a heavy wrench that shattered a soldier's visor. Lyri ducked under the control ring, working the override with trembling fingers. 2 minutes, Jax, she called. It's overheating. He fired again, hitting a trooper square in the chest. The man fell screaming into the plasma coils. Sparks rained like fireflies. Keth stepped through the smoke, cloak torn, armor cracked, but his eyes still blazing gold. He leveled his pistol at Jax. You can't stop progress. Jax grinned through blood and sweat. Then let's rewind it a little. He fired first. The blast hit Keth's shoulder, spinning him backward into a pillar. The prefect roared, firing wildly, bolts tearing across the room. One seared through Vreek's chest. The alien stumbled, choking. Lyri screamed. Jax caught him as he fell. Vreek's mandibles trembled. Don't waste it, he hissed. Make it count. His claws clutched Jax's shoulder once, hard, and then went still. Jax set him down gently, fire in his eyes. I will. Lyri slammed the final command into the console. The reactor's hum changed, low, dangerous, hungry. Alarms howled. The countdown began on every screen. 02:59, 02:58, 02:57. Time to go, she shouted. They ran. The floor shook underfoot. Plasma lines ruptured, spilling arcs of energy. Jax grabbed Leary's hand, pulling her through collapsing corridors. They burst into the docking ring, flames licking the walls, smoke thick enough to choke. Through the haze, Keth appeared again, dragging himself forward, half his armor melted. You can't leave, he growled. The ship's coded to my DNA. Jax raised his rifle. Guess we'll borrow that, too. He fired. The bolt struck Keth's shoulder again, knocking him into the doorway. The prefect slumped, not dead, but broken. They climbed the ramp into the Dominion gunship. The cockpit glowed with crimson lights. Leary jumped into the co-pilot's seat, her fingers flying across the console. I can bypass the lock. Do it fast, Jack said, dropping into the pilot's chair. Behind them, the reactor core howled, a rising scream of energy. 112. The engines coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. The ship lifted. Outside, the sky of Nadier 6 split open. Human and Dominion ships battled amid lightning and debris. Jax pulled the controls back hard. The gunship shot upward through the storm, trailing smoke and fire. Leary turned to him, eyes wide. We'll never clear the blast radius in time. Jax grinned. Watch me. The clouds tore apart as the gunship punched through atmosphere. The stars opened above them, cold, endless, waiting. Below, Gulliver Station ignited. The explosion bloomed like a second sun, swallowing everything, fire and shadow and memory. The shockwave rippled through orbit, slamming into the Dominion warship and tearing it apart. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Leary exhaled, trembling. He's gone. Jax looked out the viewport, watching the fire fade to ash. Yeah, he said quietly. But so is Vreek. She reached over, her cool hand resting on his arm. He believed in you. In us. Jax nodded, jaw tight. Then we'll make sure it meant something. He switched the ship's comm system to open frequency. This is Jax Moreno of Nadier 6. Dominion Project Etherspore has been destroyed. Repeat, destroyed. The truth is out. Humanity stands free. For a long heartbeat, no one answered. Then, faint but clear, came the voice of a Human Alliance captain. Copy that, Nadier 6. Welcome home. Leary smiled faintly, tears shining in her silver eyes. Home, she whispered. Jax looked at her, at the stars beyond, and finally allowed himself a breath that didn't taste like smoke. Yeah, he said. Home. But as they drifted through the debris field, a faint signal blinked on the console. A Dominion distress beacon, still active, hidden among the wreckage. Leary saw it first. Her smile faded. He's not gone, she murmured. Jax's expression hardened. Then we finish it next time. And as the stars swallow their ship, the dying light of Nadier 6 flare behind them. Not just destruction, but rebirth. The beginning of a war that would decide more than survival. It would decide what humanity truly meant among the stars. The wreckage of Nadier 6 drifted in silence, a graveyard of burning steel and ghostly echoes. Shattered hulls glowed faintly in the black void, their light flickering like candles before death. The storm that had once swallowed the colony was gone now, replaced by the cold calm of space. Inside the Dominion gunship, the hum of engines was the only sound. Jax Moreno sat in the pilot's seat, eyes fixed on the endless stars ahead. His hands were steady on the controls, but his reflection in the glass looked older, carved by fire, loss, and decisions that could never be undone. Beside him, Leary worked silently, her blue fingers gliding over the controls. She had tied a strip of bandage around her neck where the collar had burned her skin. The glow of her console painted her face in pale silver. The distress beacon stopped, she said quietly. The Dominion cruiser's wreck finally broke apart. Jax nodded, but didn't answer. He was thinking of Vreek, the way the old miner had smiled through cracked fangs and dying breaths. Make it count. The words kept replaying, louder than any engine. Leary looked at him. He wouldn't want you to carry guilt. I'm not carrying guilt, Jax said. I'm carrying the reason I keep going. She studied him for a moment, then turned back to her display. "Incoming transmission," she said. "Encrypted. Human frequency. Patch it through." The hollow projector flickered to life, revealing the face of a human Alliance commander. Sharp uniform, calm authority, the kind of person who always spoke as if the galaxy still made sense. "Commander Roan, Alliance Navy," the voice said. "We received your data, Mr. Moreno. The ether spore files were verified. You've exposed something the Dominion can't deny." Jax leaned forward. "So what happens now?" Roan's eyes narrowed. "The Council is in panic. Some worlds want peace, others want revenge. The Dominion's high command claims Prefect Keth acted alone, but our intelligence suggests otherwise. He had allies, powerful ones. You and your companion have become symbols, whether you wanted to or not." Leary's jaw tightened. "Symbols are fragile things." Roan nodded. "True, which is why we need to protect you. There's a station on the edge of Alliance space, Outpost Varen. If you can make it there, we'll arrange safe passage to Earth." Jax almost smiled. "Earth," he repeated softly, like a word from a dream. "Haven't heard that name without bitterness in years." Leary tilted her head. "You'll go back." Jax looked out at the stars again. "Maybe, if there's still something left worth returning to." Roan's voice broke the silence. "Be careful, Moreno. The Dominion won't let this go. You didn't just expose a weapon. You exposed their fear of humanity." "Fear?" Leary asked. The commander nodded slowly. "You showed them that one man and one runaway slave could destroy their perfect order. That's what terrifies them the most." The hollow flickered, then cut out. Silence filled the cockpit again. Leary leaned back, gazing at the distant starlight. "Do you think they'll ever stop fearing you?" Jack smirked faintly. "Not if we keep surviving." She smiled at that, tired but real. "You humans," she said softly, "you turn pain into power. Even when you're broken, you find a way to fight." He looked at her, really looked at the scars, the burns, the exhaustion, and the strength that still burned beneath all of it. "Maybe that's why they fear us," he said. "Because we don't know how to quit." For a long moment, neither spoke. The stars drifted by like silent witnesses. Then the proximity alarm beeped, a faint, rhythmic pulse. Leary frowned. "Something's following us." Jax checked the radar. A single signature. Small. Fust. It blinked in and out like a heartbeat. "Could be debris," he muttered. "It's not debris," Leary said quietly. "It's coded." She tapped the console, filtering the signal. A Dominion frequency emerged, one Jax recognized instantly. "Keth." His blood ran cold. "That's impossible." He went down with the cruiser. Leary shook her head slowly. "Look." The transmission opened, and a faint hologram shimmered above the dashboard. The image was fractured, distorted, but unmistakable. Ral Keth's face, scarred, one eye glowing brighter than the other. "You think this ends with Nadier? 6? His voice rasped. "You think you've won?" Leary's hand trembled on the console. Jax reached out and steadied it, his jaw tightening. Keth's image flickered. "You've lit a spark, human. And sparks don't bring peace. They start fires. When the Dominion burns, so will you." The hologram vanished. The signal died. Jax exhaled slowly. "Guess he's still breathing." Leary nodded. "And still hunting." He leaned back in his chair, staring out at the endless black. "Then we hunt back." Leary turned to him, surprise flickering in her eyes. "You go after him?" "Not just him," Jax said. "The ones who built the weapon, the ones who ordered it, the ones who will make the next one. If we stop now, everything we lost means nothing." Leary was silent for a long time, then whispered, "Vreek would have followed you." "Then we'll make sure his story lives on," Jax said, gripping the controls. "All of them will." The engines roared to life, streaking the stars into lines of white as the ship jumped to light speed. The blast of color flooded the cockpit, reflecting in both their eyes, human gray and alien silver, side by side. Behind them, the ruins of Nadier, 6 faded into darkness, but their story, the story of defiance, hope, and survival, had just begun. Because out there, in the cold silence between stars, the galaxy had heard humanity's message loud and clear. We're done being quiet. And as the Dominion regrouped, and the Alliance prepared for war. One ship, small, battered, and carrying the spark of rebellion, vanished into hyperspace, carrying with it the beginning of a legend. The legend of a man, an alien, and the day the stars learned to fear humanity again.